It's a wealthy Wednesday. Yes, that's right. I'm going to put it. It's a wealthy Wednesday today. And today we have a phenomenal guest. So let's get the world ready to meet and greet the one and the only Marcus Knuckles, aka also known as the one, the only Biz Money Pro. Welcome to the Morning Machine, my guy.
Brother Rob, I can't even tell you like how excited you got me right now with that unbelievable introduction. Like,
Oh, I always
outstanding,
do this.
Brother Rob.
Hey,
Outstanding.
listen, I always do this. When I do this, when it's time to do this, I do this. Okay, you know what I mean. And as we were talking off air, we were talking about flying under the radar and making a huge impact. So I want to speak on that and I want to expound on that because there are a lot of people such as yourself that do fly under the radar, but when the results hit, you're not seen. You're behind the scenes, and let's be honest, it's better to be that way behind the scenes when you're making things happen on an exponential level. But expound on that fly under the radar, make greatest impact ordeal.
Well, I would say for me, it's like because like I really love the work. Like even back in my mortgage company days, like I never forget a gentleman by the name of Gary Copeland. He was a school security guard, and he actually had a disability. He was a disabled person, school security guard. He was living in a messed up apartment, slumlord, and this housing nonprofit organization that I used to work with, they referred him to me, and short story short, his daughter actually worked at another mortgage company, and she couldn't get him a mortgage.
Wow.
I wind up getting him a mortgage, got him out of that slumlord situation, got a house he can call his own. Like grown man cried at the closing table, whatever have you, and like so that was impactful for me. You know what I mean? That meant something for me. So now as I transition in the commercial finance world, like when I look at it, like I'm supporting businesses, and businesses support people. Like this is a big deal when somebody says, "Hey Marcus, I heard about you, or I want to work with you," and because literally 99% of my business is referral based. Like I'm, and granted, because I'm in the process of scaling, I'm getting ready to get to start doing the paid ads and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
But up until now, I have really built my business really organically in regard to somebody just having a good experience and telling somebody else, and to the point to where, and I think this says a lot, especially if you know the finance game, like the people who I do business with, they refer me business. Meaning like the banks that I do business with, they'll have a client that maybe either they can't do anything for, or they may have reached their limit, or they know, hey, you know what, we did this for you, but I know a guy who can supplement what you're looking for, or whatever have you. I get those type of introductions all the time, and I just love that, and I love the fact of being able to work with people that could say, hey, I'm going to the game, come with me, or whatever have you, or this and that. Like, a lot of the experience and things that I've experienced, like especially on the quote unquote VIP or high level, has come from me helping somebody at that level.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that gives me access, that you can't buy. And that's another thing that people kind of, forget. Like, yes, there are some parties you can go to and pay for the VIP ticket, but I like the fact that I'm there because I got invited because they know the value that I bring to the table.
Exactly. And that value can always be enhanced at any given time, which segues me to, I noticed that you are doing a current rebrand as
Yes.
the Enhancement Group LLC. Talk about the Enhancement Group, and
Absolutely.
now that you're rebranding, what are the services that you currently offer to provide that impactful enhancement for your clientele?
Nah, man, you hit the nail on the head with that. Ironically, I came up with the name, the Enhancement Group, while on a trip here to Atlanta.
How about that?
I was here with a client. We were
Nice.
meeting with a group that was already here, and another person, behavioral health client in Philadelphia, and she was looking to kind of possibly set up offices here, and we had a little powwow, and it was like I think this was like maybe like in 2020, like right a little bit after New Year's Eve. And she asked everybody the question, like, if you could, if it's one word to describe you, what word would that be? And I was thinking and I was thinking, and I was like, you know what? Enhancement. Like, because, I kind of almost feel like, almost like King Midas. Like, if I'm working with a client or whatever have you, or a business, like what I bring to the table, I'm going to help you be bigger and better. Because in the biggest reason and going into like the actual services that, we provide at the enhancement group is real live business finance advisory services. And what that means, I love using this analogy. Think about when it comes to when we make money, right?
Right.
There's tons of people out here that want to tell you what to do with your money when you make it. Financial planners, wealth advisors, whatever. And basically, when you break it down to the lowest common denominator, what they're doing is they're trying to help you save and or invest strategically. Because think about it. We all know how to save money. We all know the basic fundamentals. Hey, for every 100 I bring in, I'm going to put 10 aside.
Right.
However, we also know that if we put that 10 off of all those bunch of hundreds that we make aside in a special account, it can make interest. It can, grow for us or whatever have you. Whether you're doing it with life insurance, whether you're doing it in the stock market, whether you're doing it with EFT, like there's tons of different, vehicles. And our government understood that, hey, it's a complex situation out there. So let's like have some oversight and create intermediaries that help people manage that process, which is why you have the wealth advisors, financial planners, et cetera, et cetera. Well, now let's think about borrowing, and especially as a business owner.
Right.
As a business owner, even as a small business, meaning like let's just say somebody that's only doing maybe a couple $100,000 a year in business.
Right.
There are so many different types of lenders who are calling your phone or sending you advertisements to try to solicit some type of funding or lending opportunity.
Facts.
But there's nobody helping you navigate that. And here's the deal. You can sit in front of the number one business banker that a bank has to offer, but that banker can only advise you based on products that one bank has to offer.
Correct.
Because once they sign their deal to work for that company, they can only offer you products that company has to offer.
Correct.
They could have worked at another bank 2-3 months ago and know that from basically what you asked them, I have something else that can help you, but it's not in my best interest to do that because I signed my allegiance to this bank. I can't tell you about another bank.
Got it.
And then they try and think about it. Even I tell people this, even in personal finances, like most of us have more than one credit card. Because, you know how it is, like the basic fundamental process to that is, all right, at least have one in case one gets in trouble. You know what I mean? Or if you max out one, you at least got another one to kind of still help you get through it or whatever have you. Very same concept in business. Like most banks really do try to solicit themselves as a one-stop shop, and that's really not the case. So what I do is I'll evaluate my client's profile, and that's the key word, profile.
Yes.
It's not just your credit score. It's your credit profile, your credit scoring profile. Then it's like your industry. Then it's your financials, like tax returns, your financial statements, profit and loss and balance sheets, if you have inventory or inventory lists or whatever have you. But these are all the data points that we look at. And then based off of those data points and what we know about lending and credit, we put together a finance plan that now is going to have you borrowing strategically. We have a phrase called compartmentalized funding. So compartmentalized funding or financing basically means that we're going to help you get things in your business. So we may get business credit cards for your miscellaneous expenses. Then we might get you a business term loan because maybe you have to buy a piece of equipment or you have to, maybe you're buying a property or whatever have you. So it might be a commercial mortgage or whatever have you. Then we'll do an actual line of credit. Now the line of credit is more of like money going in and out. So like that's for people who might need a front on, payroll or operations, because especially for businesses that do B2B business, where like I'm a business that services other businesses. Right. And God forbid if you're in what we call supply chain, right? Supply chain is where you're actually servicing a bigger company. So like somebody that might be providing something to Johnson and Johnson,
Right.
or to Procter and Gamble or whatever have you. Well, when they pay their their vendors, they're paying normally on like net 30 terms or net 60 terms or whatever have you. Meaning like you got to do all the work, submit the invoice, and then you don't get paid for 30 days later. But you might be paying your employees weekly, bi-weekly, and then you got operations or whatever have you. So you need money to kind of, fill in the gap, and that's normally what a line of credit is for. Like especially like in Philadelphia, an industry that's probably produced, in my opinion, probably the most young black millionaires have been home health care and intellectual disability care. Like those businesses. There's a lot of our business, people in that business.
Yes.
And a lot of them, like because of how it works and when they get paid from the MCOs or whatever have you, they need to get credit established so that not only so they can just handle the payroll, but also marketing too.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's always a marketing budget for every business, yeah.
Absolutely. So typically when we come in and we provide the capital, we're like the grease that I forget the phrase, the grease to the squeaky wheel. Like we are the grease to the squeaky wheel. Like when you really know your business and money is typically the only thing you really need, because how you hear people say, man, I could do this if I just had access to this amount of money. If I had an uncle that could write me a check for 50,000 or 100,000 or whatever have you.
Right.
We are the replacement to having a rich uncle. Like, and when I say we're just going to show you the power of credit and how you can use credit to basically fund everything. Like one of my philosophies is that with good credit, all things are possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
You put, a few people with good credit together and you can create an enormous situation.
Absolutely.
And that's what we've been doing. I would say one of my top clients, I remember it was actually a home healthcare company. I got them about $700,000 to start their business.
Whoa.
Yes, as a startup. And that wasn't Angel.
That was a startup?
And that was before they did $1.
Wait. Time. Can I take a time out? I got to do the Kenny Jet Smith. Can I take a time out for a second? Mm-hmm. So, the Enhancement Group, and I know it's a rebrand, but we're going to say the Enhancement Group,
right?
LLC. Startup costs, right, for a business. You managed out almost $750,000 for this business to start up. That is a lot. That is a lot for any business to have startup costs. Because when we think of startup costs, either we're thinking of one of two things. The startup costs are going to come out of our pocket.
Absolutely.
Or we're going to have to get a grant or a loan that we're going to have to pay back later. That it's almost robbing Peter to pay Paul, in a sense, to try to make ends meet to be able to continue on. So you're already starting off operating in debt, right? Mm-hmm. And you were able to get almost $750,000 for startup costs.
Absolutely.
That is a key thing, and that's where most black-owned businesses kind of come to a crossroads at, is the startup costs. So this is where it stems this next question.
Sure.
As it pertains to the enhancement of businesses and then the impact following, what are the top 3 concepts that you usually push to most of especially the businesses of our community that are there, but they didn't get that extra spark yet to cross that threshold? What are 3 concepts that you usually push towards our community in regards to that?
So that's a great question, and I'm going to say 3 things: credit, cash flow, and collaboration. And I'm of course credit number 1, right? So because at the end of the day, credit is basically, you're going to have a whole lot more options and opportunity. And I always tell people that's what credit does. Credit buys you time and opportunity.
Right.
So number 1, if you're getting ready to start a business in my personal opinion, make sure your credit is good first. Because there's going to be so much more you can do when you're starting that business when your credit is good.
Right.
Trying to start a business when your credit is not in the best position is a tough deal. And if that's the case, at least have what I call a credit partner. Because believe it or not, the client who I told you I got the $700,000 for,
You're right.
they had a credit partner. That's what made it easy for us to get that money. So that's the credit part. Then the cash flow part is understanding, and sooner rather than later, like the cash flow of your business, meaning like what do I have to spend money on, and then how do I make money, and then how quickly do I make money. And when I say how quickly do I make money, meaning the sales process. When I start with a client to when that money goes into my checking account,
right,
how long does that take, and then how can I shorten that process as I grow my business and learn more, whatever have you. What tools, whether they're AI tools or whatever have you, what tools can I create, to get to more what I call RGA, revenue generating activity.
Yeah.
And that's where, like even like when it comes to getting that front money of credit, like, and you start putting the money in play, you want to know how long is it going to take for the money to start coming back, the revenue generating activity. And then the collaboration part, and this is the part that's so big, like in our community, we have to start doing more business with each other and stop looking at each other as competitors.
Facts.
And here's my reason for that. I'm going to go back to the home healthcare space in Philly and in Pennsylvania. I know so many black and brown millionaires from home healthcare. It's ridiculous. And I'm talking about, real money. People making $5, $10, $20, $30, $50 million, $100 million a year.
The right way.
The right way, exactly, right? But at the same time, they have no representation at all in their industry. When I say no representation, now, because here's the thing, when you talk about scaling your business and collaboration and everything, now it comes to the point of association.
Right.
Like how the NRA does it.
Yeah, absolutely.
They spend money, ridiculous amounts of money collectively. Everybody in the gun industry puts money in, and then they lobby so that the laws are pushed to their benefit.
Correct.
As big as home healthcare is and as much money as these people have, they haven't figured that out yet. And unfortunately, you know how it is, unfortunately, in our community, how the underlying thing of how hard it is for us to come together or whatever have you.
Yeah.
But it's costing us money.
True. Very true.
Like, even though you're making money, with the right influence and the right lobbyists and you want to try to push somebody to where, like, somebody that looks like you is now on the advisory board of that industry. So then now when change comes, you can really be proactive because you know about it before it comes instead of now always reacting to a situation.
Right.
I have so many calls from like that industry from different situations. Somebody's losing a contract or whatever have you, this and that, and where they need money quickly or they need, this and that. And for me, the good thing about, our space, and I tell this to all my clients, when you have me as a provider, you don't just have access to me getting you money. Mm-hmm. I believe in also sharing my resources too. So I have a lot of resources, and even politically, that I've, worked with, from me helping them, just, building that relationship. Because the good thing about selling money is that when you sell money, it's hard for somebody not to want to be your friend when you just help give them the resources to help them change their life.
Exactly.
Like their life, their husband's life, like the whole family's life got changed by the impact that, and the enhancements that we gave to them in regards of, working capital strategies for that business. Right. So I get invited to all types of stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I appreciate that, and I don't take that for granted.
Right.
But those are the 3 C's, the collaboration. And then I'm going to even go into an even bigger part that I've learned is now we have to also start thinking about building our businesses for exit strategies.
And speak on the importance of that, because there's a lot of people out here that are in radio land right now that really are in a quandary about this situation. They have to make these tough decisions, and they do not have an exit strategy at this particular point. Probably have not even thought of developing an exit strategy. So just expound on the importance of that.
No problem. Exit strategy and succession planning. I'm gonna go at both, right? So one of the things that, and once again, I says, minorities, black and brown people, we really big on sometimes complaining about the system or complaining about, man, like,
yes, we are.
It seems like these other groups, they got access to so much more or whatever have you, this and that. And a big part of that is because they're doing things differently. They're doing the things that we're not doing. And one of the biggest things that they do is they don't take business personally. So, and don't get me wrong, I get it. Like, the first business that you make that might have helped you be the first millionaire in your family or the first person to kind of like really be the change of that whole generational curse type of deal, or now we got somebody in the family that we're really proud of, and they might be hiring other family members and putting people on or whatever have you. I understand the personal feeling of that business, like, man, like, that's your baby. However, let's call a spade a spade. A business is nothing but a tool. And these other groups, the reason why they have access to so much more money, like when you hear about people having 7-figure bank accounts, 8-figure bank accounts or whatever, because it's a big difference between somebody running a $10 million business and having $1 million in the bank. Most $10 million businesses don't have $1 million in the bank. That's theirs. It's the companies. And then even if it is the companies, it has to stay available for operations because it costs to keep the money,
exactly,
to keep it operating.
Right.
But now here's the deal: that $10 million business might be able to get sold if it's built properly. It can get sold for maybe $10 million, like a check for $10 million at one time.
Right.
So then now, instead of you just, because that $10 million business, the typical margins on a good business, normally are about like 10 to 20%. So if somebody's doing $1 million in revenue, that business owner typically is probably taking home, about $100,000 to maybe $200,000 a year. You know what I mean? Which is a good salary outside in the world. You know what I mean? But the good thing about being a business owner is that, with tax codes and things of that nature, you can kind of, you can live a life to where even though you might only be making $200,000, it might seem like you're making a lot more than that because of the finessing of expenses and things of that nature. Talk to your CPA about that. But anyway, we don't build businesses to exit so that we can get that big check and then reinvest. You reinvest that, you parlay into another industry or another business, or you take your same business and take it somewhere else to another state or, somewhere else so you can, and because here's the deal. If it took you 5 years to get to that point, you got 5 years of hardcore experience, do's and don'ts, you know what to do. So now and mind you, with that big check that you just got, and yes, you got to pay taxes and all that type of stuff, but you got that big lump sum money, you can reinvest it. And statistically, you should probably do even better because you got all that experience you just had to get you to this point, and then now you got a lot more resources to work it. So typically, you want to have a lifestyle where, as a business owner, you might in your lifetime you might have maybe 3-4 great exits to where now the family war chest, the family trust is sitting on tens of millions of dollars because you built, just like you built property. You flip a property, you renovate it or whatever have you.
Investment property,
You do the same thing with a business. And then you can buy businesses. That's another thing too. Instead of creating a business from scratch, especially for people that are high income earners, I just heard this phrase, it blew my mind. Henry's, high income earners, not rich yet. Blew my mind. So these are people who are making money, and these are like, people that are like, have jobs that might be making, like, let's say maybe $350 or more, a year in, in income. That's, a high income earner, right? Yeah. And then of course you even got, your athletes, your entertainers, things that, people that are really making that big lump sum money. And it's like they making big lump sums of money, and they're like, oh, I'm going to start a business. And it's like, why you want to start a business when you got access to cash? You can buy a business, and then even with buying business, it's financing options.
Right.
When people see like a business for sale for $1 million, they think they gotta, scrounge up $1 million like dollar for dollar. No. To buy a business is just like financing a house. It's a down payment and then it's financing. Most businesses, especially good ones, you can buy a business with only 10% down. So if it's $1 million business, you can finance that business with $1 million down payment. I finance $100,000 all day. I mean, with a $100,000 down payment to buy $1 million business.
Wow. That is, man, let me tell you something. Folks, understand the gems that he is putting out this morning, and there has to be a part 2 on this coming soon because, man, the level of gems that you put out today are just absolutely phenomenal. And you probably have a lot more gems to share, but we only have but so much time. But I will ask you this as a final question, though. What is the best advice for people who are not financially intellectual that still don't have any idea, they're reckless or what have you, they have no idea where to start when it comes to just their livelihood, just from a basic financial approach? What is the best advice that you have for our listeners in Radio Land out there to really give them a jump start?
Wow. So, of course, I'm going to say, information is power, and we know that. And yes, I will say that the internet has made things more accessible.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't necessarily say easier.
True.
The reason why I say not necessarily easier is because a lot of the information is not right information. And then sometimes even the right information, when I see people charging for the information, I'm like, wow. So it's very, very tough out here in regards to kind of like figuring out who's who. And then and I'll be very honest with you too, even when it comes to, to credit and financing, I've heard bad information from bankers, the people who have the jobs that are supposed to help you, do the deal or whatever have you.
Yeah.
So I would start off simple with and I hate to say like books, but like you got to take it back to the old school almost, as you say, like, and even if it's an audio book, like, the money book, like there's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like there are definitely like basic books, The Millionaire Next Door, that are like really provide a lot of fundamental information on business and credit and things that you should do. One of the best books that I've ever read on credit is You're Nothing But a Number.
Wow.
By John Alzheimer.
The title of that, though.
And here's the kicker. This was not a book written by somebody who learned credit on YouTube.
No.
This was somebody who actually worked at Fair Isaac, which is FICO.
Yeah.
And Equifax and Experian. Like he actually was part of helping create the algorithms for it. But it's called You're Nothing But a Number. His name is John Alzheimer. Ironically, he's from Atlanta too. White guy.
How about that?
Literally.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, like that was a good book. But yeah, there's definitely some resources out here. Keep it fundamental, and then just understand that like. And here's another thing too. This one thing I always tell people: credit is not cash flow. So just because somebody was able to get you, $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 of credit, that doesn't just mean just spend the money.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
Have a plan and work your plan.
Exactly.
Right. And then going back to what I said earlier about revenue generating activity, you should like when you're going to somebody, especially as a startup, and you're going online, you found somebody to sell you some business credit cards or whatever have you, because there are a bunch of people that do that. Know how long it's going to take the process. Like, know that when you get the money, all right, I'm quickly going to buy, this tow truck, or like I'm going to pay for this class, this license, like whatever it is, the elements that you need to actually make money, you do that sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
And you don't go to Saks and you don't go to Neiman's. You don't do that first.
Lord,
because what happens is, and trust me, I get it. Like I've lived it myself. Like because you get this lump sum of money,
and we don't know how to act.
You get this lump sum of money, and it's real easy. Like when you get $100,000, to think like, hey, you know what? I can afford to spend $2,000-$3,000 on an outfit.
Yeah, or, AKA we don't know how to act, because that purchase is going to become an impulse buy because your mindset is, I
Impulse
think
buy.
I got it. And that impulse, when you need it, you want it, you gotta have it, it becomes an impulse buy. And then later down the road, you have second thoughts about that purchase in the beginning. It comes back to bite you real quick, quicker than most who just, they're not acting on impulsive or acting on the desire to have or the desire to be big baller shot caller and be the flashy dashy one out here in these streets. That's what gets people caught up, and I'm glad you said that. And that's the advice that's going to resonate right there, because yet again, especially in the African American community, our community, right? When we never had that amount of money before, we start testing those waters and then we overdo it by a mile. And it gets us caught up in the end times when you really need to make something go and make something happen. That's why the revenue generating activity is so important, because as much as you spend, it's got to come back full circle, right?
Absolutely.
And that's the whole point of how credit works. You know, if you're going to use the credit line, you got to be able to pay yourself back from that credit line, or to contribute back to that credit line. It has to be paid back at some way or fashion at some point in time, or else it's going to come back to bite you, and it's going to be really, really tough. And we see that often, especially in our communities. That's why people such as yourself are so impactful when it comes to not only being financially literate and intellectual, but on top of that, having the wherewithal to know what to do in situations like this and be able to recover with certain tips. So I just want to say thank you for doing what you do. You're extremely valued, and you're valued because you make that impact, as we stated, under the radar, but over the radar impact.
Absolutely.
And that's what it's all about. And I know we're running short on time here, but I will say this though. I do want to ask you where everybody in Radio Land can find you, follow you, connect with you, and be able to get involved in the enhancement group's services if they need them.
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked me that. But for the most part, they can start by going to any of the my IG pages. It's Biz Money Pro, and it's spelled out the way it sounds. BizMoneyPro, and then also the Enhancement Group, and that's all spelled out, the Enhancement Group. You can find me on IG. I got Calendly links on there to set up appointments for consultations. But by all means, please reach out. I also have a number I don't mind giving out. It's 856-418-0560. Once again, 856-418-0560.
Thank you so much for that phenomenal information this morning. We need it, and there's someone out there in Radio Land that has heard this, and you've now made an impact on them, and you haven't even seen them face to face. They're saying, you know what? I feel inspired. I feel great. I'm going to start changing this financial situation right now. I'm going to turn around this business right now from the concepts that you just gave this morning. And you didn't even give it all. There's so much more to talk about that we don't have time for, unfortunately, this morning. But I would be honored and privileged to have you back again and again and again throughout the year, because this was a serious wealth of knowledge that will give us the financial wealth that we seek abroad, everywhere, everybody. It gives us the financial not just literacy, financial intellect, but the financial wealth overall, even spanning generations, that will be the key thing that we need in our community. So I appreciate you, and I can't wait to have you on again because, like I said, there's so many things we didn't get to, but we need to get to them. So with that, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Hey, make sure that you run this back because and on our website 1026situation.com, because these concepts are what's going to drive you to that next level of financial intellect, wisdom, and wealth. The real wealth that you need. Health is one thing, but you also got to make sure you're taking care of yourself from a financial standpoint. And once you get those two together, there's no limits to what you can do out here. Okay? So, with that said, Marcus, Mr. Biz Money Pro, the one and only, thank you so much for being on the Morning Machine. Like I said, this is not your last time being here. I look forward to you coming back again and sharing a wealth of knowledge with our people, our listeners out in Radio Land, many times throughout 2024 and beyond. I really thank you so much for coming through.
Oh, thank you, Brother Rob. Appreciate it.